From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
That wonderful opportunity. I think I would say to the young people in this audience and the young people everywhere, what is just true of our democracy, that it rests in their hands. And how we function as a country going forward is in large measure up to them. And that they should take all the opportunities that they can to learn about our country and to learn about its history and to learn about our governmental institutions, and then to figure out how they can do better and leave the world a better place than they found it.
That was Justice Elena Kagan before Congress yesterday. A scary thought, Drake. It's up to you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I mean, we'll do better than millennials did.
Representative Steve Womack was there saying that there were a lot of young people in the room who came to watch that historic testimony. They haven't been before Congress in many years. And we'll get into that a little bit more this morning. I've got Jennifer Bukowski here guest hosting with me. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
And we will be joined by Zach Smith of Heritage at 7:35 to recap the testimony from the justices yesterday in Congress. We'll also talk about, I think Todd Blanche is in the hot seat today with his nomination. We'll also be joined by Congressman Bob Onder at 7:05. A lot going on in D.C., and specifically, he's proposed some legislation I think you're going to want to hear about. And Andrew Bailey joins us at 8:10 this morning, our co-deputy director of the FBI. A lot going on in that world.
He's just deputy now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Deputy. Sorry.
Bongino's out.
Yes, deputy. I demoted him. Sorry. Deputy director of the FBI. Apologies to Deputy Director Andrew Bailey. And so we are excited to talk to him a little bit later. A big show for you today. We have to talk about it, guys. We talked about it yesterday. No one really wants to talk about it, but there's a diarrhea update. John's face. We talked about it yesterday morning, and then it was all I saw all over Twitter and the headlines yesterday. Apparently, Taco Bell is now being investigated as potentially the source of the outbreak. They're saying it could be caused by lettuce, but they don't actually know. And Taco Bell apparently is cooperating in the investigation
and pulling some foods off their menu out of precaution.
But they haven't identified a specific ingredient, and the government hasn't identified that the outbreak's actually due to Taco Bell. So they're just telling you for the next few weeks, maybe only eat cooked vegetables.
Or just eat Oreos. No more lettuce.
That's right. Because lettuce can kill you. And what's weird is, why is it always the lettuce? They tell us, every, once a year, they're like, oh, watch out for the bag salad. You never hear that about Oreos, Jen.
You do hear it about chips.
Really?
Dirty brand chips and Zapp's chips. Salmonella recall because of their powdered milk in those chips. Is potentially giving folks salmonella. So I guess the processed foods can get you too.
And I think it's affecting more places than just Taco Bell. I think everyone's taking some precautions. I was recently at a buffet and I was saying it's usually really good. And this time it was basically chicken and rice. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I thought, I bet they've pulled a lot of the fresh items because they don't want to give people the explosive diarrhea, which maybe they're being kind about it. But I was kind of mad about the selection.
Or kind
at the
to their
time.
Custodians.
Every time when we get these E. coli infection news stories, I think about the off-color George Lopez bit about why the E. coli is out there, and he references the Mexican immigrant vegetable pickers, and I won't go further than that, but you can Google it. It's pretty funny.
I have seen some really funny things. The Rubio memes are back, and lots of funny tweets about this. It is serious though. I mean, we heard yesterday from Brian Carl that he knew of someone who was basically had it so bad, unable to work. People are being hospitalized. I think it's now spread to 30 states. But what a way to go.
Well, we
I
know
mean,
for the record it wasn't Randy's not out because of this, right?
well, that was my speculation. Is he says he's lost his
Has
voice.
lost his voice.
But that's what I'd say too if I had explosive diarrhea and I was
We have no information that that's what's happening, though.
someone fact check
Fake
us
news.
on that.
Fake news.
But I mean, what a way to go. People, I mean, I get criticized a lot, oh, you drink too much. Jed's about to pop one open. Oh, you drink too much Coke Zero. And I'm like, you got to go some way. And I'm like, if I die from too much Coke Zero, at least I died happy because Coke Zero makes me happy. If I die from the lettuce, I am not going to be happy. Imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what took you out? Lettuce. No, thank you. That is not how I want to go. So be safe out there. Wash your fruits and vegetables. Maybe
Even the bagged ones. I thought the bagged ones were already washed.
apparently not. So yeah,
Okay.
if you have been marked,
Don't shake hands with Dr. Tobler, I guess, is the takeaway, huh?
yeah, wash your hands really well, and maybe for a week, adopt a diet more like Drake, where your diet has no vegetables whatsoever. Maybe he is smart here.
I feel like this has been going on for longer than a week. I think you should extend it to a month.
Yeah, I mean,
Eat like me for a month.
It's like
I
the
like-
Cyclosporus can't live on Drake's little chocolate donuts.
I got some fresh tomatoes from my parents' garden yesterday, so maybe that's the way to go: is get your garden going
There
at
you go.
home. But
That's easy. Just grow your own produce.
you needed to start quite a while ago, but find a friend with a garden, and hopefully maybe then you can avoid it. In other news, specifically related to Missouri and related to things that are bad for you, apparently there's been some bad reports about brown recluses this summer. Be careful out there. KRCG had an article talking about a mid-Missouri homeowner who had several of them in their house. They are a particular concern for young people. They've got
You've probably got them.
Yeah. They've got a dark violin-shaped marking on the front part of their body, and you can get infestations. And
I don't think I've ever seen one.
I don't
The
think
violin
They're
shape thing.
really small.
I don't think I have either, but certainly bites can cause tissue damage in some people. They can be very serious. And they are, so they're telling folks, hey, keep an eye out for this. So watch out for spiders and for the diarrhea lettuce. Okay.
And
everyone?
ticks.
And ticks are
Oh,
really
ticks are
bad
terrible.
this year.
Couple summers ago, we had a black widow spider at our house.
Ooh, that seems like a
Did
bad
it get ya?
omen.
Nope, didn't get anybody. Didn't
Good.
get the dogs, didn't get me.
Good deal.
They said, Jen, you said you've never seen one. The experts are saying, despite the brown recluse's reputation, that they rarely bite humans and generally try to avoid people, even with homes with lots of the spiders. So maybe that's why you haven't seen one. So, but
If they do bite you, it's a nasty mess.
it is. It is. All right. Well, we saw Senator Lindsey Graham's sister get sworn in yesterday. She's going to fill out his term. And we also saw people are still talking about Mitch McConnell. He posted this picture because people are like, oh, I think he's dead. Look, there's a picture of his feet. He wasn't moving when he got, they're all this speculation.
Well,
And
the Washington Post did an analysis of the photo.
Yes.
Because he was holding, I didn't notice this at first because I had my show on Sunday when that photo came out. He was holding a picture of him holding the sports page.
Yeah, which is like the proof of
Proof
life.
of life,
When
literally.
you're being held hostage, you hold up today's paper, right? Isn't that
Exactly.
And so he didn't hold it up like a true hostage photo, but it was strategically placed in the photos, I think to try to
On his lap. And they had
Yeah.
good lighting. Like, that there was some Stephanie Bell type character in there with some lights taking that photo to make it
because
flattering.
he looked really good.
Yeah, they
Better,
look good. I'm like, did they have a makeup artist in there? Because if they're trying not to alter it so that it looks legit,
If you've
which
been
they
in-
found that it did, then they didn't use the touch up with the AI.
I mean, I've been in the hospital before only for all of the births of my children, but I didn't look like the best version of myself. You and I have seen him in person. That was a really good photo of him.
And Elaine,
Yeah,
his
for-
wife.
For sure. But I guess it brings up a question of like, how soon is too soon? If people are ill, and we saw it with Lindsey Graham as well, or they just died, like, should you
Well, there's
hold
that
your...
New Jersey congressman who went AWOL for like 4 months when we have such a tight majority in the House.
And then he comes back and he says
He
he
never
did have.
explains what this medical thing was.
Didn't he say he had mental health issues and that he sought treatment for that? But we've got AOC out there now criticizing McConnell for being gone, and it's like, whoa, look, like, this has happened before. We saw.
She's been gone for years.
That's
Well,
fair.
Dianne Feinstein was another one that was missing quite a bit before finally.
But yes, the
you go.
Washington Post is doing the people's work in that they hired experts to examine the photo to make sure they looked at the metadata of the photo. They consulted digital forensics experts who found no signs of AI manipulation or image tampering, and they verified that the paper in the photo was actually the sports section. So, we should give kudos to the Washington Post because they're doing the really hard work out there for all of us. I mean, it's a bizarre world we live in. And I think, for politicians, you kind of ride a fine line. Like, just because you die doesn't mean that you weren't a bad person or you had bad policy. But at the same time, I feel like you should have some respect for people who are going through serious illness or, people who just lost someone. But at the same time.
Well, they have a Democrat governor.
Yeah, you are a public person.
This is his last term. You can't retire because you'll get a Democrat senator.
Right. But the question is, is it appropriate for everyone to be immediately conversing, criticizing in these situations? You are a public person, but you're still a person
No
with a
one
family.
was immediately questioning this. This bro has been in the hospital a month now.
Well, yeah, that's fair. But I think I'm thinking more about the Lindsey Graham situation that, as soon as he died, they were like, he was a horrible, there were people out there criticizing him almost immediately. So I think it's interesting to see the reactions in just that you are a public person, but you still are a person, but you've kind of stepped into the public limelight. At what point is it fair game versus
That one was a weird
showing
one. He's
respect?
only 71.
Yeah.
He's in Kiev less than 24 hours before doing a press conference. He's talking to the president of the United States a few hours before he dies, and he makes a joke. I can't die now. I have to do the Russian sanctions package and do this, that, and the other, and I'm doing Meet the Press. And he wouldn't go to the doctor until after Meet the Press the following day.
And I think, but he had an aortic dissection, and I think that kills people much younger than 71 and is pretty fast. It can kill you in an instant. And I don't know that there's a lot of signs, assuming that what we're being told about his health condition is true.
Well, if you have hardening of arteries or heart disease, that it can be a sign, but it can also be a sign of an amphetamine overdose. It can present like that. So we got to wait for talks.
Okay, well, next up, we've got John Marsh with your daily DC rundown.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Historically, it was meant to serve very wealthy people who owned a lot of land. And that's still a system that we have today, and it's something we would change.
That is the DSA co-chair. They are truly out there. They get asked this.
Country.
So would you like to abolish the Senate?
That's part of our platform, and we don't think that's extreme. We don't
think it's extreme. Let's just abolish the Senate. That gets us into the daily DC rundown with John Marsh.
Yeah, if they abolish the Senate, then acting Attorney General Todd Blanche won't be able to appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee. He is on tap for his confirmation hearing. Blanche served as the president's personal criminal defense attorney before joining the Justice Department as Deputy Attorney General. The U.S. restarted the blockade on the Iranian ports and launched dozens of additional strikes, marking the fourth consecutive night. President says it will get really bad next week with strikes on Iranian bridges and power plants if they don't cut a deal. President said he decided to replace the planned 20% fee on cargo coming through the Strait of Hormuz with trade and investment deals from the Gulf states. Iran, though, not ruling out charging its own tolls. Price of crude is shot up as the fighting resumes, including those Iranian attacks at cargo ships. Every U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrest team will now have at least one law officer equipped with a body-worn camera going forward. That after the two fatal shootings by agents who didn't have cameras. Move comes after that Mexican man was fatally shot in Houston last week. Then 6 days later, an agent shot and killed a Colombian man in Biddeford, Maine.
Lots going on in D.C. Thank you for that, John. And again, we'll be covering a lot of D.C. topics today with Representative Bob Onder at 7:05. We'll talk about the justices before Congress with Zach Smith of Heritage at 7:35 and about the FBI with Andrew Bailey at 8:10. So a lot of D.C. talk today.
Packed show.
Yeah, it is a packed show. And I think what we're watching, certainly we'll be recapping the testimony from the Supreme Court with Zach Smith. But what we're watching today is this Todd Blanche is in the hot seat. And I think
signed the letter. Did you sign the RNLA letter in support of his?
I don't know if I signed that letter or not. Did you?
Of course I did. I'm co-chair of the organization. They weren't sending that thing out without my
she
signature
probably
on
wrote
it.
the letter.
And so Jen is in support of Todd Blanche. Of course, he's going to face some tough questions. I think one of the big topics. I think yesterday Durbin said that Blanche told him this anti-weaponization fund was a mistake. That was a hot topics, a month or more ago, and they kind of walked it back. Do you know where that sits today, Jen? The anti-weaponization fund?
Well, I know, wasn't Ed Martin partly in charge of that? And I don't think that he's the most popular guy in Washington, D.C.
And that wasn't the most popular. And I think the Republicans tried to justify it and say, hey, the DOJ settled before. This was an Obama-era policy. But I think the magnitude of the fund that Trump had proposed was much greater than had been used in the Obama administration. And that's what had Democrats' hair on fire over
Yeah,
that.
they were pointing at the Comey investigation and Letitia James and all that, using that weaponization funding.
And that whole topic is blown back up. Did you see both Schmidt and Halley ranting on X because it's come out that Jack Smith might have lied during testimony about reviewing their text messages?
Yeah. No, I mean, the DOJ, I think, is in Trump 2.0 with some of our friends over there right now in the Civil Rights Division. Yeah. I think they have been rocking and rolling, which certainly makes them a threat to all of the Democrat policies because they really are putting a stop to a lot of the nonsense. And so I expect, I mean...
Yeah, they're ratcheting it up, too, threatening to prosecute election officials if they don't hand over voter lists.
Right, which makes this appointment and this confirmation pretty important. So I expect some fireworks today. Up next, Congress is getting into daylight savings time. Are we finally going to make it permanent?
Woohoo!
Has America been fair to Donald Trump?
Through 117, the bill is passed.
The bill is passed. The House has passed legislation to make daylight saving time permanent nationwide. Are we... I have mixed thoughts about this. I hate changing my clocks. At the same time, Congress can't agree on anything, and we have like a lot of important stuff going on, and this is like what we're spending our time on, and this is what we agree on. Is this what we should be spending our time on, Jen?
Yes, finally getting rid of this stupid thing. It's not made sense. It's so long. It actually wasn't put in place for farmers, which is like what they told us growing up. It was something about factory, like electricity hours, but I hate it when you lose an hour of your weekend. It is kind of nice when you get an hour back, but then it's dark. So let's just stick with what we are on. We're staying on daylight savings. Or
correct.
So we'll stick with what time we're on now, and we won't fall back in the fall. So we get an hour this year.
So if you're looking at, I think this is from Indianapolis, right now.
Or we lose an hour.
At the summer solstice, it's in June. You're seeing sunrise at 6:16 a.m., which I actually like. Sunset at 9:16 p.m. That sounds reasonable. Your sunrise is at about 8 a.m. and your sunset's at 5:30. If we keep DST, then you have in June the same time. You sunrise 6:16, sunset 9:16. But then when we get into winter, your sunrise is an hour later, 9:02, and your sunset's an hour later at 6:23, which just means that you get more sun time in the evening.
Which is good because, I don't like leaving the office when it's dark already.
Exactly.
You have to walk to your car after work after 5 p.m. and it's dark outside.
And whether the sun comes up at 8 or 9, you're still getting to work when it's dark. But it's like totally mentally defeating when you go to work and it's dark and you leave work and it's dark. At least you get an hour. I mean, maybe I'd be out of work by 6:30.
They could go the way Arizona and Hawaii and not mess with it at all.
That's the other thing. It's like we've dealt so much with election stuff with Arizona. I'm always like, okay, well, what time is it there? Because I can never remember which part of the year that it's only an hour off versus 2.
Well, that's the whole point, though. If this passes, we'll
all be on the same time.
We'd all be on the same time,
but
and we'd
states
just be
can opt out.
Stuck on it. How long is it going to take to fix Outlook and all of our computer programs to get rid of it?
That sounds like not our problem. They'll take care of that for us.
It's like a Y2K problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we pay that subscription
for. But
you
forget how many clocks you have. And now I think a lot of us, I think your phone and a lot of things are designed to just change automatically, which you hope they do. But then that first day, I'm always wondering, is this the right time? Is this one of the things that changed automatically? And then you forget about the things that don't, like your microwave or whatever. And then it takes me like
get up on ladders.
A week to figure out. Yeah, and if you have an old car, I'm pretty sure. I think my car, I can't remember, but I have had to pull out the instruction manual from my glove compartment and look up how to put
the ballpoint pen sticking in a little hole in the radio.
I forgot about doing that. It's been years since I've had to do that, but that was a pain twice a year to try to figure out that.
Thank goodness for Elon. He figured it out for you, I guess. But are you in favor of permanent daylight savings time or not? Are you in favor of Congress spending their precious minutes and coalition building?
What the heck else have they been doing?
Well,
I think actually something we all want that they could agree on that they're passing. It sounds like a minor miracle out of D.C. to me.
That's my point.
The senators are going to balk at it.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, my gosh.
What's the pushback there, John? Do we know?
They're senators.
Yeah, they want money for their states. They want a bridge to nowhere to fix daylight savings. They want more federal courthouses, palaces, and oh gosh.
Well, I guess if you're in support of this policy and in keeping year-round DST, you could just join the DSA party because they want to abolish the Senate. Then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
There you go.
Yeah, the
point would be moot.
Socialism, that's the answer to our problems.
And their theory is because the Senate was designed to be a rich people's body.
Yeah, that's what they said. Oh, it's for large landowners, rich. It's like, bro, just because there's more land per capita in the states that you're mad that have 2 senators doesn't mean that we're all rich landowners in the flyover countries. Stop watching Yellowstone.
And
Like,
if you go back to the founding of the country, you and I were in D.C. I got to go to the Smithsonian and go back through, a lot of history, a lot of whatever. And they showed us the picture of the Constitution and the Declaration and everything.
And they considered it unicameral. They rejected it.
They did. But then they also pointed out, hey, when they originally wrote those words, we the people, you hear that all the time. That was a small section of we the people. At the time they wrote we the people, they didn't include women, and it only included people who owned land. Yeah. So, the fact that some of our bodies have some sort of historical context, I think, is maybe the history is lost on the DSA party a little bit.
And the Senate, when they first talked about forming the Senate, I think it was Ben Franklin who said, well, if you're appointed to be a senator, and I think that was how they were talking about it in the early days, you won't receive a salary because only wealthy people were going to serve in the U.S. Senate.
Oh, well, the House of Lords in England.
Exactly.
Huh?
Well, and there aren't any wealthy people serving in the House. I mean, look at how wealthy those people have gotten. I mean, that was a big thing.
That was one thing about Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
He actually has an appropriate amount of money for someone who just earned his salary and saved.
He wasn't doing insider trading.
Yeah.
He wasn't stuffing gold bars in his pockets from foreign entities.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, finding the gold bars, the labeled Ziploc bags of whose bribe it was, like that one New Jersey senator. Oh my goodness. But yeah.
And I saw people actually criticizing him, how could you have a long history and a career like that and you're not rich? And it's because he was doing it the way it was intended.
Yeah, he made $174,000 a year and he was worth couple $1 million at the end. I mean, we haven't gotten verification of those numbers, but they were looking at his most recent financial reports, I believe, when they reported $1.5 million or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I actually hate this daylight savings time thing. I'm sorry. I'm looking into this.
Why?
It inconveniences me so much.
Why?
Arizona, they do not recognize daylight savings time. Doesn't this bill make daylight savings time permanent? So
yes.
Just one area of Arizona is going to be 2 hours ahead, and part of it's not because of the Navajo Nation and all that.
Yeah, the Navajos don't recognize it.
Well,
yeah, certain Indian tribe areas, that was a big nuance for poll closing times when we were out there working that election.
Yeah, the timing is a big deal, and then, how
but
it interacts
that was
with...
after November, right? So that was...
And the Indian casinos are open 24/7, no matter what time of year it is.
I have to use the computers when I'm doing time changes. It's like me and directions. If you ask me to do it in my head, I will do it exactly opposite. And somehow I'm better with longer time changes than every time I try to convert to whatever Eastern time is, I get it wrong.
It's 1 hour away from us.
I know, but then I do it backwards.
Oh.
So I
so
have
instead of it being 7 o'clock in New York, it's only 5 o'clock in New York.
Yeah, somehow it just doesn't make sense in my mind, and I really struggle with it. So I'm always double checking myself.
I have messed that up before. I won't make fun of you for that. Just when I'm booking radio guests and stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm calling, I'm like, where's Senator Hallie? It's supposed to be now. They're like, it's an hour from now. I'm like, oh, my bad.
Yeah, and then...
Yeah, no, Jen, I remember that. Because Peter said... No. Here's what happened.
Tattletelling.
Okay, this was the biggest inconvenience of my day that day, and I would gladly do it again. But Peter said, okay, you can't go on lunch because Jen's coming in at this time.
Senator Hallie...
So I was waiting around, and as soon as the time came around, I got a call from Jen. Hey, actually, it's an hour from now. And I was like, okay. And I think I still lived in Salisbury at that time, so I couldn't go home and do anything. So I just
in my defense, I was converting it, assuming that they were giving me East Coast time, because people are on the East Coast always just think everyone revolves around them.
Yes,
and they give you East Coast time, so I'd automatically converted it to Central.
They probably think that they probably automatically go to Eastern time because people like us, whenever we book guests, we're always thinking it's an Eastern time.
But they had said Central in the text, and my brain just washed over that, and I just assumed that they were giving me an Eastern time.
I started including CT in most of my emails. It's a struggle, and I think the biggest winner here, though, if this were to go through, are parents of young children, and I've become more moderated in my thoughts about it as I've gotten older, but I was fired up when they were little and they were already waking up at 6 a.m. and then we changed the clocks and now suddenly we're all waking up at 5 a.m. again. Ooh, I was hot. and trying, you spend so much time trying to get them to sleep through the night and get them on a schedule. And then the moment that hits, you're just, for 3 weeks, you're fighting it every day. And then you're trying to tell them, oh, it's time to go to bed. And their little faces look up at you and they say, but Mom, it's light outside. It's not time for bed. And you're like, it's time for bed.
I did the same thing as a kid, 100%.
And it's all, and like, how do you reason with a small person? They're like, wait, the sun's out. It's not bedtime. And you're like,
you're sending your kids to bed early like my parents did to me.
Yeah, there's a book for that. It's called Go the Bleep to Sleep. It's a kid's book. You should buy it. It's quite funny. But anyway, so that is the big news out of Congress today, and we are going to finally talk about something other than explosive diarrhea when we get to making Missouri healthy again. Watch out for the lettuce. Make sure you're washing your vegetables. You do not want to. I have a family member who says they had this, and they said it was like a week before they felt better. So you do not want this.
Yuck.
But there has been a raging sunscreen debate for many years. There's new rules out according to the Wall Street Journal. You're going to want to hear about this. I can't decide who's right. Jennifer, I need your help. That's up next on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up
Missouri healthy again, and there has been this raging sunscreen debate, especially when I had little kids. I considered myself a little bit of a granola mom. I like to make my own baby food. I did the cloth diapering.
You did cloth diapering?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was worried about like chemicals. I was careful about the bug spray I put on them. And one thing that I never could quite figure out was the sunscreen, because you see this raging debate online that all sunscreen is poison. And the reason why we have so much more cancer over in the U.S. is because we have different rules about our sunscreen than in Europe, and that maybe we'd be better off like not using it, or you have to use like a clear one, or you have to use the really thick one, and you have to, I remember, John, when we used to go to the beach and we'd look like warriors with our zinc oxide and the different colors.
Kidding.
You could buy it in like, I always liked the teal. You could buy it in like all white. You could basically paint your face with it.
Even the regular copper tone would leave you all just sort of white and pasty looking.
Yeah, what happened to that stuff? It did work, I remember, but now there's this ongoing debate, and it's like, your skin is what, the largest organ on your body, so are you poisoning yourself by covering yourself in chemicals? But if you don't, then you're going to get cancer because you get a sunburn. So I still don't know exactly the answer, but the Wall Street Journal is trying to tell us there are new rules for sunscreen, and this seems like the government should have gotten involved a while ago, because it feels like we're being lied to. These SPF numbers basically are trash. They mean nothing. And
yeah, that's been the case a while.
It has, but I still think people are confused about it. So what they're saying is SPF 30 is enough for most people. If you wear an SPF 30, it blocks about 97% of the UVB rays. Now, if you go up to SPF 50, that sounds like a lot more than SPF 30, does it not? But you only move up 1 percentage point. SPF 50 blocks about 98% of the UVB rays. And if you're wearing 100, it blocks about 99%. So between 30 and 100, you're only moving up 2 percentage points.
Yeah.
This just doesn't, here is where the government should get involved and make them give us a scale that makes sense. So anyway, the bottom line is it's all marketing, I think, because they're going to charge you way more for that SPF 100, and you're going to think you're way more protected, and you're only slightly more protected if you just pay the normal price for the SPF 30.
But there's a new FDA-approved ingredient, the first new ingredient approved by the FDA for sunscreen since the 1990s. It's bemotrizonal, and it provides sun protection and doesn't feel greasy or leave a white residue. I think I just have been using this. I was just telling you on the break about my new favorite sunscreen. It's a gel. It feels silky, and it's awesome.
And it's cheap.
It makes you want to reapply. Yeah, it's from Trader Joe's. It's sweat resistant. I don't know if that's the ingredient in it or not. I'll have to check this.
I am going to have to check that out. They're saying it's more important to find some sunscreen that says broad spectrum than chasing like an SPF 100, because the broad spectrum not only protects you from the UVB rays, but also protects you from the UVA rays. Those are the ones that contributes to aging and skin cancer. Drake, are you a UV monitor? Because yes, he is. See, it's a younger generation thing. I never paid much attention. And then we were somewhere and I was like, oh, I should get out the sunscreen. And my 20-year-old nephews were like, oh, the UV's only 6. I'm like, is that something you check in the morning? I'm thinking, yeah. How do you know that? It's in your iPhone.
Yeah, it's in my iPhone. If I'm maybe I have some free time, like if I want to go tan or if I want to do X, Y, and Z.
So if
outside,
what's the UV have to be for you to get a tan outside? Does it have to be 10?
Ooh, like an 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
That's the good zone.
So if UV is 7, I shouldn't even bother.
Well, I say that's why I do it. I also, for football, it'd have to be 10 for me to actually put on sunscreen. Because when you get burnt, you're playing football. It is the worst feeling in the world. I hate it to death.
Not real fun with pads, is it?
And I don't put on sunscreen when I play football because I'm one of the only white guys out there. So it's can't be the only guy sunscreen.
The number of times you've walked into the studio with a bad sunburn is probably more than 5. Well, you're not very good about sunscreen.
Way more than that.
You were talking about zinc oxide. I remember playing baseball in the summertime and having to keep reapplying the zinc oxide because it kept wiping off on my catcher's mask.
Oh, yeah. And that's what they said is really important, is the reapplication. And I think that's where I fail a lot of times. I get busy. I'm having fun. I don't want to reapply my sunscreen. I'm like a little kid because I'm constantly calling my kids in from the lake. Okay, reapply your sunscreen. So they said you should be reapplying every 2 hours when you're outdoors. and after you get in the water. And I just find that to be super annoying. There's a raging debate between it's more annoying. The spray has made it really easy, but it doesn't always give you like the best coverage. So we have a debate in our house about that, I know. But they're saying,
and no matter how waterproof they say the stuff is, like you said, if you're in the water, in the pool, or the lake swimming around, you need to reapply it.
Yeah, the other tip is they say most people do not put enough sunscreen on, that they actually use much less than you actually need. So they said use enough, reapply. And my pro tip, if you're a girl and your family's constantly stealing your sunscreen, get the sunscreen with glitter in it. The boys will not steal it from you. I like that tip.
Melanoma is no joke, though. You got to protect.
All right. Up next, we're going to be talking with Congressman Bob Onder about some of his latest proposed legislation in D.C. Stick with us.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I'm Stephanie Bell, joined by guest co-host Jennifer Bukowski this morning. We've got Drake Whitman and John Marsh, and we are going to be joined here shortly by Congressman Bob Onder. We're talking about what a big show we have planned for you today. We've got Zach Smith coming up about the justices testifying yesterday, and Andrew Bailey on the FBI later. But now Congressman Onder has a big week. He's got two things on the docket this week, and he is here to tell us more about them. Congressman, you have a bill regarding the Child Care Access Means Parents in School. That program, you want to move it from the Department of Education to HHS. Why does that matter, and how would parents actually notice a difference?
Yeah, good morning. It's great to be back. Yeah, that bill is going to be the subject of a markup this morning in the House Education and Workforce Committee. And, this is part of the Trump administration's effort to move functions of the Department of Education. Remember, Republicans have been vowing to get rid of the Department of Education since Ronald Reagan. But to move whatever functions of the Department of Education are more appropriate back at the states or the local school districts, to move that power back there. And in some cases, there are good federal programs that would be better off in another department. So in the case of my bill, that's the mouthful that you just cited.
What's the short form there?
Yeah, well, I'll just say less bureaucracy, better child care.
Okay.
And it moves C-Champus, Child Care Access Means Parents in School program, a program that's been around since 1999, from the Department of Education to the Department of Health and Human Services. What that program does is enables parents who are poor, basically the same folks who qualify for Pell Grants and other needs-based assistance. It allows them to access child care, to enable them to continue their education at the college level. And really, these child care programs in general belong over at HHS rather than the Department of Education. So that is what my bill would do. It's part of a bigger effort. We'll be considering 10 similar bills today in the Education Committee that essentially codify some of the Trump executive orders on this subject.
Dr. Bob, talk to us about the passage of the Housing Act, what it means for your constituents, and did you agree with the president deciding not to back the bill and not sign it?
Yeah, John, that's, there's no question that housing affordability is just an enormous issue. Not long ago, certainly, when I bought my first house in my late 20s, but just a short time ago, 15 years or so ago, the average age of first-time home ownership was 30. Now the average age of first-time home ownership is 40. And, a lot of this is driven by, higher interest rates, for one thing, which is driven by overspending and inflation in Washington, D.C. And a lot of it is driven by the literal orgy of spending that occurred during the Biden administration in the name of fighting COVID. Housing affordability is just a function of general inflation. So it's good that we're looking at things to make housing more affordable. And now I had concerns with that bill that it really bore the hallmarks of Senator Elizabeth Warren a little too much. It was a little heavy on really doubling down on decades old FHA policies. It had some deregulatory elements, especially regarding public housing, low-income housing. But there were some weird quirks to the bill. For instance, it did purport to deregulate manufactured housing. So, in other words, what we would call trailers. And require that they no longer have wheels and chassis, and which would make them more affordable. At the same time, they had new fuel energy efficiency standards for the same trailers. So I'm hoping the net effect of the bill will be good. But I did have some reservations on it, and of course, President Trump in part withheld his signature because he wanted to prod Congress to pass the Save America Act, something that I, of course, strongly support.
If you're just joining us, this is Jennifer Bukowski. We're joined by Congressman Bob Onder. Congressman Onder, your bill that you filed this week deals with child care. You're moving it from the Department of Education to the Department of DHS. We saw so much fraud with these child care programs that are going on. Does this legislation have anything to do with that? Or what is being done to make sure that people can't have these fake daycares and rip off the taxpayers?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Jennifer. The fraud in the federal child care programs has been massive. Now, most of those programs are already over at HHS, and this is something we dealt with in the Education and Workforce Committee right before the Independence Day recess, and I had one part of that large bill to really more strictly police federal child care programs. I mean, I believe it goes back about 15 or 20 years that the Office of the Inspector General identified federal child care programs as quote at risk of overpayment, and then as recently as 5 years ago, $350 million of potential overpayment were identified by the GAO. And it looks like just in Minnesota alone, you probably had that much fraud revealed in the last year. Yeah, we've got to police these welfare programs far more strictly than we do. And a big part of the problem, Jen, is that a lot of the states view this as free money from the federal government, so they're not very cautious as to how it got spent.
I can't believe how easy it was. It seemed to be to rip off the taxpayers with the autism things, or the daycares, the daycares, the hospice places. It seemed like just ripe for the taking to all the criminals. So I'm glad to see that there's an attention on that.
Well, also, Jennifer, it was happening in plain sight up there in Minnesota, because when I talked to my Republican colleagues from Minnesota, they knew about this, and they've been raising the hue and cry for a long time. And they actually knew legitimate child care providers who were being policed pretty strictly. But for some reason, these Somalian fraudsters were given a complete pass, and their best guess is that it's because these Somalians were a constituency of the Minnesota Democrat Party, and therefore people like Tampon Tim Walz, the governor, turned a blind eye. It's just pathetic.
It's infuriating.
If Washington's going to be sending our tax money to the states, we have to police this, or better yet, just devolve these programs entirely back to the states and let the states take care of these programs.
I agree. Well, now the House Judiciary Committee is set today to consider your Chloe Cole Act. For listeners who haven't followed that issue closely, can you tell us what the bill does and why you think it's necessary?
Yes, well, as we know, I mean, in the last 15 years, we have seen an epidemic of children, too young to purchase a cigarette or a beer, or even get their ears pierced without parental permission, being coerced into life-altering, harmful gender transition procedures. The Trump administration has been very aggressive in executive action to try to clamp down on this. One thing the Trump Trump did very early, January of last year, was to ask the Department of Justice to work with Congress on a bill to put an end to these harmful procedures. And I was honored that they chose me as the House sponsor of that bill. I was also honored that Chloe Cole, probably the world's most famous detransitioner, was willing to lend her name to the bill. So what the approach we take is to institute a very strict liability for harm done to children by these gender transition procedures, a long statute of limitations, and then the ability of those harmed, the parents and the children harmed by chemical and surgical mutilation in the name of gender ideology, to sue their victimizers and receive damages, including costs of detransition. So as much as the Trump administration has done in the last 2 years, we need to permanently put in statute protections of kids from these harmful procedures.
And we only have a few seconds left, but do you have anything you'd like to say about the sudden loss of Senator Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, Lindsey Graham or Lindsey Grahamnesty, as Rush Limbaugh used to call him. He's a guy I didn't always agree with, but he had a great heart for public service. He was a career Air Force veteran. He served decades in Congress. He was very instrumental as head of the Judiciary Committee in shepherding through conservative justices appointed by and judges appointed by President Trump. So our country is going to miss him. I won't miss all of his policies, but he was a devoted public service and a great man.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Congressman Onder. It's always a pleasure. We appreciate the work you're doing there in D.C. and your time today and catching up with us. We look forward to the next time we get to catch up.
Always great to be with you. Thanks. Look forward to it.
All right. Coming up next, let's talk about the new Sea drone. I had questions yesterday because I saw this in the headlines and I'm like, what is this thing? The Wall Street Journal is filling in some of the details. We're using new technology for the first time in combat, and we'll tell you all about it up next.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Are bringing something new to the party. That is the sea drone. We have used it in other contexts before. Jen, you and John, you were both telling me what we use it to
rescue our pilots.
Yes.
It's a robot boat, basically.
But over the weekend, it was the first time we've actually used it in combat. We used unmanned sea drones, and let's see, we carried out a kamikaze-style strike against Iranian submarines and ships and a ship maintenance facility at the Bandar Abbas Naval Base. These things, it kind of looks like something you'd see at the Lake of the Ozarks, John.
It's pretty cool looking. The pictures of it was sort of the kind of a, I don't know, catamaran type thing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, they say the vessels are about 24 feet long. They can travel more than 1,000 miles, carry payloads of roughly 1,000 pounds, and they're cheap. They cost less than $1 million. So that's far cheaper than, I mean, what's a big naval ship cost you, John? You're looking at the billions?
Billions, yeah. If you get up there, even a Tomahawk cruise missile is into the multiple millions of dollars.
It's more sophisticated than what I suggested yesterday of just like the little RC boats that my kids have at the lake and just strapping some, weaponry on there.
Why do these things cost $1 million, though? I'm looking at it. It does look like a boat like you would have. We have a boat like that. It doesn't look like it would be that expensive. Well, it looks like it would be something that costs $35,000, not $1 million.
It's got a lot of technology, and they say they're still in the early stages. It's not perfect yet. They say it still has some weaknesses, including vulnerability to electronic jamming. That's one way. And so we're kind of copycatting other countries. Iran's had a lot of success, and, the militant groups over there have had a lot of success with these unmanned drones and have used them a lot. And I think one way we fought back against that is trying to jam those drones.
And now they're using spools of wire. We learned that about that in Israel. Just like it's like less than a fishing line weight wire, mile long spool of it.
To try to take these,
so that you can still do the drone without being jammed.
They said they also saw Ukraine use these unmanned drone boats against Russia. So we're kind of taking notes and doing our own thing. I also really like to see that these are actually developed in Texas by a Texas-based startup, Saronic, and I guess they are one of the Pentagon's most closely watched defense tech companies right now. So the fact that we're developing these and the technology, even though we're kind of looking to see how they've been deployed by other countries, we are developing them right here at home, I think is really important. So
better than boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's not just surface Navy drones. They've got underwater ones as well.
Have we used those before?
I'm sure they are in the process of. They just don't talk about it too much.
That's
I think
classified.
They've got some of their mine clearing technology assigned to some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at...
Do we know any straits that might need some mine clearing? Have you heard of any straits lately in the news that might need that kind of tech?
I mean, I think we just you can just imagine 10 of these sea drone boats just straight down the strait, just clearing everything out. I like this plan. And yeah, if we've got the underwater ones, I think we should be using them. But I think it's important in a couple of ways, and just, we are rapidly changing the face of how military operations work. It seems like we're keeping up with new technologies that other countries are using. We're learning from our enemies and from our allies.
Everything is changing in the theater of war with this tech and with the drones and the boat drones, the flying drones. Apparently, the best sniper in the world is a Ukrainian guy. He hasn't been able to fire a shot in a year and a half because they're using drones, not snipers now.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about the Iran conflict, a lot of people's line in the sand was we don't want additional boots on the ground. And so developing technology to limit the risk to our own people, I think, is really interesting. The problem is the bad guys are doing the same thing.
Yep.
So... interesting development, more information. I had a lot of questions yesterday about these sea drones. I'm glad we could fill in some of those details today. Coming up next, it will be 7:35. We're going to be joined by Zach Smith. A big testimony in Congress yesterday with two justices before the Supreme Court for the first time in many years. They had advice for young people, but they also testified about what they've faced personally. You aren't going to want to miss that. Plus, we'll ask him about the Todd Blanche confirmation. Zach Smith from Heritage up next. Zach Smith of Heritage joins us now. We had the justices before Congress testifying for the first time in some while. They had some advice for the youth, which we played earlier, and they also testified about their own personal security. Zach, what were your takeaways from their testimony yesterday?
Well, look, first and foremost, you're exactly right. When you said it's been some time before the justices testified, it's actually 2019, about 7 years ago, was the last time any Supreme Court justice appeared in front of a House Oversight Committee or House Appropriations Committee. And it was actually even further back, all the way back in 2011. That's the last time any sitting Supreme Court justice appeared in front of a Senate committee. And so this was a very unusual occurrence yesterday. And look, the stories that the justices told about their challenges to their personal safety, listening to Justice Barrett having to explain to her children why she was having to wear a bulletproof vest. It's an incredibly sad state of affairs. And I think it shows how much life as a Supreme Court justice has changed really over the past 5 to 6 years.
Was there any surprises yesterday with the testimony?
I don't think there were any surprises necessarily, but look, this scope and scale of the ask that the justices are making, it really is staggering in some degree. Essentially, what it looks like is happening is the justices are vastly expanding their Supreme Court police force. The Supreme Court police historically have been a relatively small police force, mostly designed to secure the physical Supreme Court building itself. But now their mandate has expanded, it looks like, to include personal protection for the justices as well. We heard that each justice has a security team dedicated to him or her, somewhere between 4 to 8 officers. Typically, that may expand as more and more justices need around-the-clock security. And so what used to be viewed, I think, as a somewhat relatively sleepy police force is being transformed into something more akin to the Capitol Police or even the Secret Service with the level of protection they're now having to provide to each of the 9 justices and their families.
Now, I thought they were guarded by the marshals, weren't they?
Former justices.
Well, so it changed. It actually changed earlier this year.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court police have traditionally helped secure the justices to some degree in D.C., but when the threats against Justice Kavanaugh came about, for example, when Justice Alito was having threats, yes, the Marshal Service was primarily responsible for that. But what we heard didn't come out much in the hearing yesterday, but in some of my research before and after the hearing, it turns out that was placing incredible strain on the manpower of the Marshal Service to provide that level of around-the-clock security for each of the justices. And so that's why you see the justices creating really a dedicated Supreme Court police force. Now, as part of the funding request the justices are making, because the request is for the judiciary as a whole, they're also asking for increased funding for security for lower federal court judges as well. And you're right, Jennifer, the primary responsibility for the safety and security of lower federal court judges, that's still going to rest with the Marshal Service.
We're talking with Zach Smith of Heritage. Now, also a topic of conversation yesterday at the hearings was the ethics code. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, this is an interesting dynamic. It's kind of interesting because obviously Justice Elena Kagan was one of the justices who testified on the Hill yesterday. There's been some controversy around Justice Kagan, whether she should recuse herself from an upcoming case the court will hear next year. The Suncor case, and part of the reason that's an issue is because Justice Kagan signed the foreword to a very controversial manual, climate justice manual that the federal judiciary put out. Now, if your listeners haven't been following this, I encourage them to go look it up. It's a very controversial manual that essentially the entity dedicated to providing training and best practices for judges put out. It was issued in conjunction with a group of far-wing leftist activists when it comes to so-called climate science. And so because the issues that the court will hear next term in that Suncor case overlap to some degree to some of the issues addressed in that very controversial manual, there have been calls for Justice Kagan to recuse under the ethics code, but at least so far, she has not done so.
That's interesting. Well, also, Zach, both of our senators, Eric Schmidt and Josh Hawley, were posting on X their outrage at a possible perjury by former Special Prosecutor Jack Smith because he testified that they just reviewed call records of our senators, and now it looks like they might have gotten personal text messages between our senators and the White House. What are your thoughts on this thing flaring up yesterday?
Well, look, first and foremost, that's very troubling in and of itself. Setting aside what Jack Smith said to Congress, the fact that his team apparently got text messages between high-level Republican political leaders, the White House, others, that's very, very troubling in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yes, if Jack Smith gave false testimony to Congress, and I did see Eric Schmidt's tweet to that effect, then yes, there needs to be a full investigation, and if appropriate, he needs to be prosecuted. Because keep in mind, his team, the Biden-era Justice Department, they were not shy about bringing these type of perjury or false statements prosecutions. You may remember all the way back at the very beginning of President Trump's first term in office, that was the charge brought against Michael Flynn. That false statement case, essentially a perjury trap, was set for him. So look, I am fully on board. This needs to be investigated, and if in fact he did provide false testimony to Congress, he needs to be held accountable for that.
Yeah, like he gave himself some wiggle room. Did you seek a warrant for the content of any text messages, he was asked, from members? Yes. No, I don't recall that. Okay, it was just poll records? Correct. So, yeah.
That's what can make it tricky with these types of prosecutions. Look, Jack Smith, for all his many flaws, he's a very experienced prosecutor, very experienced lawyer. And look, any prosecutor will tell you sometimes these false statement cases can be difficult to prove when witnesses give themselves a little bit of wiggle room. But still, look, there needs to be an investigation, a full airing of this, regardless of the criminal prosecutions that may or may not result from it, because I think we, the American people, deserve answers for why the text messages, primarily of Republican members of Congress, why those were obtained and why Jack Smith and his team thought it was appropriate to do so, and what safeguards have been put in place to make sure something like that cannot happen again.
Yeah, and who did they give them to? Like, what political operatives were they potentially sharing this private information with? It's audacious that they would take text messages between the White House and our senators.
Well, there were many audacious things about Jack Smith and his team, not the least of which is his very appointment, I think was likely constitutionally problematic.
True that.
Zach, when the justices come back in October, how soon do you think we'll hear a ruling or at least discussion of some of those state and local bans targeting AR-15s and like kinds of weapons?
Well, we are going to hear about it pretty quickly because the court has agreed to hear a case out of Cook County, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, next term, where they're going to address that very issue, whether state and local governments can ban so-called assault rifles like the AR-15. Now, what's interesting about this case, the court actually had the opportunity earlier in the past few terms to take up a similar ban. They were asked to review Maryland's ban on AR-15s, but they declined to do so. Now, in that case, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, he wrote separately saying the court needs to take the issue, that there's a lot of division among the lower federal courts. And so obviously he was able to convince at least 3 of his fellow justices. You need 4 justices to agree to hear a case. And so the court will address that issue pretty quickly once they come back from their summer vacation. And of course, the justices are on a hiatus right now. They'll come back and begin hearing cases again in October. So we have a little bit of time before they'll be back in action, but it'll get here more quickly than we all think.
Now, the justices were in the hot seat yesterday, but in the hot seat today is going to be Todd Blanche and his confirmation hearing. As you prepare to watch that testimony and today, what are you looking for, and what do you think will be the highlights from the discussion?
Well, obviously, looming over the discussion yesterday and looming over the confirmation hearing today is, Senator Lindsey Graham's unexpected death. Obviously, Senator Graham played a big role on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He was actually expected to become the chairman of the Judiciary Committee after the midterm elections and said he was going to work hard to confirm judges and cabinet officials. So I think his loss will really be felt in some degree today, particularly in this hearing for Todd Blanche. Now, I suspect we'll hear the usual attacks from Democratic senators trying to cast aspersions on Todd Blanche, trying to cast aspersions on him for having previously served as President Trump's personal attorney before joining the Justice Department. But I suspect, for now, acting AG Blanche, hopefully soon permanent AG Blanche, and the Republican senators will focus on the many accomplishments that the Justice Department has achieved since President Trump took office, and particularly since Todd Blanche took the helm of the DOJ.
I also suspect he's going to be questioned about that anti-weaponization fund that we talked quite a bit about maybe a month ago now. Where does that sit today?
Well, I think for now, at least, the Justice Department has, they're still working out the details, I suspect. I think Todd Blanche has backed off of that to some degree. But the design behind the anti-weaponization fund, as I understand it, is designed to provide compensation to any victim who has been subjected to unjust prosecution by the DOJ, subjected to unfair congressional investigations, all of that sort of issues that individuals may have faced. But, of course, Democratic members of the House, the Senate, they've painted it as a kind of a slush fund designed primarily to go into Donald Trump's own pocket. But I think Attorney General Todd Blanche has been very clear that that was not the intent of that fund.
And there's precedent for similar funds under Democrat administrations, is there not?
Well, look, this is certainly going to be a hot-button topic. I think you're right. This will be one of the lines of attack that will come, but I suspect Blanche and his team have prepared for it because it's very obvious the Democrats are going to try to use any and all means to slow down his confirmation.
And Zach, but we expect him to be confirmed, isn't that? We don't expect problems with getting him confirmed, do we?
No, I don't suspect. Look, I always joke my crystal ball is cloudy when it comes to political predictions. But I think he will. I think everyone's expecting he will be confirmed, and in part, it's helpful that
he got confirmed.
South Carolina's governor. Well, yeah, and he got confirmed previously to DAG spot, and of course, South Carolina's governor moved very quickly to appoint Lindsey Graham's sister to a seat to help make sure that Republican senators stay at full strength in the Senate.
Well, we appreciate you joining us. If you haven't been following Zach on socials, he has ramped up his social presence. He's a great follow, keeping us updated about what's going on in the courts and beyond. So give him a follow. Zach Smith of Heritage, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much. Take care.
All right. Up next on the docket, John, what do you got?
Why did the robber have to walk home from the robbery?
And did he get away? That's up next on Wake Up Missouri.
It's Wake Up
Except for this.
And we preface this story by saying, Jen, would you take this guy's case? 29-year-old Jalen Goddard of Odenton, Maryland, allegedly robbed the Verizon store, then promptly called the cops to say his vehicle had been stolen. 2 robberies called in separately, but within minutes of each other. Goddard told the cops on the phone he just left the car running while he ducked into the phone store to buy a new case for his iPhone. But when officers arrived, they observed blood on Goddard's glasses, hands, and shirt, as well as blood all over the store's window, and put 2 and 2 together. That's some karma right there, dude, one officer said with the body cam footage. Goddard denies being at the store, but the cameras show him robbing it. The big question is, no word yet on who would steal a 1999 Kia.
Well, you know, the criminals aren't always geniuses. I'll just put it that way. The ones that get caught this easily, he called the cops on himself. So he left it running. He's outside of 2 places he just allegedly burgled, and he calls the cops.
It did not indicate if he'd left his pickleball bag in the car or not. Did not say.
I'm thinking, no. I'm thinking this guy isn't running with the pickleball crew. He's probably got other hobbies like drugs.
Like stealing pickleball gear out of people's cars, right?
Or mahjong sets. Now that I know the price of a mahjong set, I'm thinking, man, maybe that's the latest thing that's going to get burgled.
Those are just the fancy ones.
Why would you want to burgle a mahjong set?
Because they're pretty nice. Jen taught me how to play mahjong, and now I've been shopping around for my own set. It's actually pretty fun.
It is. It's a fun game. And it's pretty. You can get all the accessories and, deck it out. Everyone is getting into it.
Drake's shaking his head. Is mahjong my version?
The college girls are into it, too. It's not just the moms.
Is it my version of rock tumbling?
Yeah. I think you might be Jen and Stephanie, you might be the youngest people to do mahjong that I've ever met.
No, my nieces are into it. College girls
I have never met a college person that's playing mahjong. Not once.
I know several.
I think maybe we run in different circles, Drake.
Oh, I remember my great aunt and all them playing. It was a woohoo lee or whatever they say when you win.
Mahjong. Are you talking about bunko?
I don't know.
This was mahjong. They played mahjong.
This is one where you, with the birdie bam, you cheers and have a drink. And It's social, and there's lots of clicking and lots of laughing. It's a fun social thing to do, which is healthy for you, which we covered.
Yeah.
And
what
makes
happened?
us very healthy again.
What happened to just normal cards? What happened to the old
I like cards too.
Jen is a card shark. You better watch out. If you want to play cards with her, you better bring your A game. She's pretty good.
I don't want to pick on Drake.
Spades with her and some other games. She's.
This break, we're going to play some poker. Me and Jen.
I have. Well, you watch out. I have a competitive
I don't know how to play poker. Can you teach me, Drake?
Oh, there's a real resurgence in backgammon too.
I cannot do that game either. The only, what I remember about Mahjong is, the old version of Windows when you had, AOL. It was one of the games that, came with Solitaire. You got Minesweeper and you got Mahjong, and I never could figure it out.
I can't give you guys too much crap because I do Sudokus daily. So, I mean.
And you're into birds and other weird
What's wrong
hobbies.
with birds? I'm now okay. Oh, okay, whatever.
I love it. Okay. If you want to weigh in on mahjong, bird watching, or rock tumbling, we're at 573-874-9390. But up next, we're going to be talking with Andrew Bailey, Deputy Director of the FBI, about the goings on there. Stay tuned to Wake Up Missouri.
From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction. Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell, the Zimmer News Team. And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
I'm Stephanie Bell, joined by guest co-host Jennifer Bukowski this morning, and we are pleased to be joined by Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew Bailey. Now, you visited Jefferson City in the spring with a number of other law enforcement officers talking about World Cup security and the coordination that was going on amongst local and federal and state branches. It seems like a pretty successful event from a security,
knock on wood, so far, so good.
Security perspective. Well, we're done in Kansas City. Talk to us about that effort and how it played out.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, my friends, for having me on. Always good to be on there in Missouri. And yeah, look, this has been an enormous success thus far. I mean, there's always risks associated with these kinds of major events. 11 host cities in the United States of America, 3 in Mexico, 2 in Canada, a month's worth of games. And look, let's overlap that with everything else that was going on, a UFC fight at the White House, America 250 events, the World State Fair exposition here in Washington, D.C., and Major League Baseball is still going on. And so this was a lot of security. It taxes local law enforcement because they have to do extra patrols. I was proud to work with our FBI field office in Kansas City to secure the FIFA World Cup games there in KC. Kansas City was one of the most important cities of the 11 host cities because of the number of base camps, the number of matches, and the number of fan fest events. So great opportunity to show the entire world the very best that Missouri has to offer, and proud of the work that local law enforcement did and the FBI did in coordination to ensure the safety and security of those games.
It's so great to hear from you, Andrew. I kind of miss you. We went from having updates about what you're doing on a near daily basis to you having kind of a relatively low profile as Deputy Director of the FBI. From what I've gleaned, you were in Bangkok last month. What have you been up to? What are you worried about? And what should we know about the FBI? Your priorities?
Well, look, I miss getting to talk to y'all regularly. I was excited to get to come on and give you updates. The FBI is an enormous organization. 38,000 employees, 11,000 armed agents, 56 field offices in the United States, and more than 60 law enforcement attachés overseas. We secure our borders. We protect the American people from violent crime here at home, but we have a national security mission as well. And so sometimes it's important that we can protect the American people by ensuring that foreign governments are extraditing violent criminals who have harmed Americans to bring them back here so they can face the full weight of American justice. Just last month, I was in Kenya to motivate the Kenyan government to extradite fraudsters. And you've seen an increased effort by the Trump administration and the Department of Justice and the FBI to ensure that we're protecting not only public resources from fraud, waste, and abuse, but also hardworking American families from being ripped off by scam center compounds. So Kenya is now extraditing these fraudsters back to the United States of America. I was also at the Royal Thai Police Department in Bangkok, Thailand, to see their increased efforts to shut down, dismantle, and disrupt Southeast Asian scam compounds that can zero out working Missouri families' bank accounts in a single day. And we've saved American people tens of billions of dollars with that effort in Bangkok, Thailand alone. So we can protect the American people by ensuring that we're taking the fight to the enemy overseas as well.
Wow.
Director, talk to us about Justice just announced that they'd handed down indictments referencing some Russian cyber criminals that they think have been behind the hacking attacks on schools and hospitals and banks.
Yeah, look, this is scary stuff. At the end of the day, there are ecosystems of cyber criminals that foreign nation states allow to exist. I'm talking about Iran, North Korea, and Russia. And those governments have a permissive environment for these cyber criminals. Just look at what happened in Berlin, Germany, just this last winter, where cyber hackers attacked the infrastructure of Berlin and shut down the power grid for more than a week. People died because of the cold there. We've got to protect our infrastructure. And investigation, arrest, and indictment of cyber criminals is important because it increases deterrence and accountability. But we've got to have a more proactive strategy. The Trump administration has actually developed these aggressive and proactive cyber attacks that are sequenced in such a way to disrupt and dismantle the ecosystems that allow these to exist. So we're doing everything we can to harden our infrastructure, hold wrongdoers accountable, and disrupt and dismantle the ecosystems so these attacks will stop.
We're talking with the Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew Bailey. Now, everyone's talking about AI, and artificial intelligence has made these scams and online manipulations much more convincing. How is AI changing that threat landscape, and how is the FBI addressing it and adapting to stay ahead of these cyber criminals?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Look, crime is no longer localized. The criminals, the terrorists, the cyber hackers, they don't care about borders. They don't care about jurisdictional lines. Technology has supercharged these threat streams, and AI is just the latest, most innovative iteration in the way in which technology supercharges the threat streams. Look, this is not a reactive law enforcement posture. This is a proactive organization at the FBI where we identify threat streams and we work using our legal authorities to mitigate those threat streams. And I've seen firsthand these Southeast Asian scam compounds. Look, the mafia of the 1970s wished they had the enterprise and wished they had the infrastructure.
What do those scam compounds look like that you've seen?
It's literally a fortress with multiple buildings. They traffic humans in, they capture them and have them in these compounds, and they have them robo-dialing Missourians and people all over the United States and people all over the world, and they use AI to disguise their voices, to pretend to be banks, to pretend to be charitable organizations, and in a single day they can rake in millions of dollars in illicit gains. And so,
the people working there are there against their will? Is that what you just said?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of collateral crimes. This is a modern form of human slavery. It's fraud at an industrial scale. Some of the scam compounds have brothels where there's prostitution and drug use. So it is a major, major problem. The Royal Thai Police seized one of these compounds in Southeast Asia within the last year. We took down the Prince Group, which saved working families tens of billions of dollars. But as it's a balloon, as you press in on this side, it pops out on the other side. And so we've got to stay aggressive in our pursuit of these multinational, transnational criminal organizations.
And the real threat ultimately is, what are they doing with all this cash? Do you have any idea, once they're scamming Missourians and others out of the cash, what are they using the money for?
Well, other illicit criminal enterprises. They oftentimes will open casinos. They use it to traffic drugs, to traffic more humans. But again, this is fraud on an industrial scale. This is bigger because of the part of the world that we're talking about, where the majority of the population on the globe is in Asia. And so they have this ready pipeline of people who are desperate for work. They lure them into this form of human slavery, and then they perpetrate the frauds against the United States, Europe, and other wealthy countries.
Are any of the foreign governments complicit with these criminals, do you think?
Yeah, look, there's institutional corruption that we're fighting against. And again, that's why it's so important that we take that national security mission of the FBI seriously. I think if you look back in time at the previous administration, the FBI was weaponized by Biden's Injustice Department and abused to go after political enemies of the Biden administration, political enemies of the deep state swamp. And when we refocus the FBI on its core mission of keeping the American people safe, securing our borders, and upholding the Constitution, we can make a real difference. And you see that in our work against those Southeast Asian scam compounds. You see that in the violent crime numbers, where we've arrested more than 44,000 violent offenders in 1 year alone.
This proactivity, I love it. I appreciate your work. Can you say where you're heading next? You were in Thailand, you were in Kenya last month. Are you allowed to tell us where you're heading to next as you push this important proactive approach against these criminals?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me take a few more, go on a few more operations, then I'll call you back and let you know how they went. But look, I'm here in Washington, D.C. right now. I've got a series of meetings. I'll be at the State Department tomorrow to talk about our work under the President's signature of NSPM 7 to protect the American people from violent left-wing extremist groups. And so excited to partner with all of our federal law enforcement agencies and the brave men and women in law enforcement there in Missouri as well.
I hope you get to see like the Serengeti and the animals when you're in Kenya. That's just beautiful. While you're doing this important work, I hope they give you some hours off because you've earned it.
Hey, justice never sleeps.
Well, and so it's important. The work you're doing is certainly important. It sounds like I feel like you've got it under control and are on top of it. If there's a message you could give, I mean, you're a dad, you've got kids. If there's a message you could give to Missouri families and individuals who are trying to stay safe from these cyber criminals and cyber threats, what message would you give them?
Yeah, look, you can go online to our Internet Crimes Reporting Center if you think you've been victimized by a crime online. When it comes to parents and protecting kids, I wanted to make Missouri the safest state in the nation for children. I want to make the United States the safest country in the world for kids. And so our work to combat online violent nihilistic extremists, these are predators that live on the dark web but create victims on the open web. And it's important that the FBI be adept in operating on both forums. These are violent extremist groups who recruit youth based on isolation. They then exploit those youth. They abuse those youth. And they convince those youth to commit acts of self-harm, animal abuse, ultimately suicide or mass casualty events. This is the nadir of depravity. And so it is so important that parents know what their kids are doing online. It's important that our juvenile officers across the state of Missouri use the legal authorities that are within their power to ensure that we're protecting the kids, and we're going to find the criminals, we're going to hold them accountable, and they will face the full weight of the American justice system.
Sounds like important work. We are glad you are at the helm, making Missouri proud. And we want to thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate the updates and look forward to catching up after your next few trips.
Hey, God bless you. God bless your listeners. Appreciate y'all. Look forward to talking soon.
Thanks so much. All right, up next, we're going to do the Morning Bell. We have some updates about what Missouri home builders are saying about business.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
After blockbuster bank earnings yesterday and better than expected inflation data, stocks swung up yesterday. We have the Dow up 0.02%, the S&P up 0.38%, the NASDAQ up 0.9%. As we look at the sectors, we saw losses. The biggest loser yesterday was health. The biggest winner, technology. And the Missouri Not Independent had an article about Missouri.
Missouri Not Independent, you just called it?
Yes. Has an article, but it's less political maybe, but it's about the Missouri Home Builders Report. And we haven't talked too much lately about the housing market, but it was a topic of discussion that we face time to time. And I think during COVID, we saw some crazy things happening. And then it just seems like the housing market hasn't cooled off. And anyone, I'm thankful I bought my house in 2012, I don't know, a while ago, because the prices have just been crazy. So they talked to home builders in this report, and Missouri presents a mixed picture. So while nationwide home construction is cooling, especially with respect to multifamily construction, they're saying Kansas City permits are still up significantly year over year. St. Louis remains positive compared to last year. And Columbia issued just 101 permits in May. That's slightly above April, but it's down 18% from the pace last year. So they talked to a mid-Missouri home builder who said when mortgage rates briefly dipped below 6%, they had kind of a spike in home sales. But overall, these high mortgage rates plus inflation plus government regulations plus, with inflation, rising construction costs is really depressing the home market. And so the prices remain very high. When we look at median new Missouri homes, you're looking at $437,000. That's insane. The median existing home is $253,000, and a typical new home mortgage now consumes 46.5% of the median household income. Can you imagine paying half your income on your housing? That really hurts your ability with your discretionary spending.
Yeah, there's no vacations. Grocery bills have also gone up. It's tough. And the problem is, if you have a good interest rate, you're not going to move unless you absolutely have to. So that makes there be even more of a shortage in the market. That drives prices up, and mortgage rates are high. So there's just a combination of factors that are making it tough right now in that housing market.
Yeah, and so what they're saying is it's not necessarily a supply crisis, but more of an affordability crisis. And the builders are pointing to, hey, government, you could do something about this, because a lot of what they're saying, part of what they're saying is causing the increased prices are these really strict building standards. And you see this at the local level. They're constantly, what is it called? It's got an acronym like UBC, UPC. Anyway, they're constantly updating these. And I went to a housing conference in Jefferson City several years ago, and a lot of the developers came in and said, hey, if you just relax or grant variances to some of these requirements, we could add supply to the market, but based on these really strict requirements, the bottom line doesn't work out for us. So, you're telling us you don't have enough housing. We're telling you a way to fix it. And I haven't seen much action at the local level anywhere that allows developers who are saying, we're ready to build, we just need you to give us a break here.
Well, I'll tell you who is working on it diligently. Aaron Hedlund at the White House with the Trump administration. Did you get his latest economic report, the book?
I did.
Yeah, he mailed us each one of them, but it had a whole section in there. They're working attacking it from multiple different angles across the federal government to encourage the loosening of regulations, to be more careful about different predatory practices that drive up the costs of buying or borrowing money, And so they're on it, and they're looking at it, and Trump is taking this very seriously.
You can weigh in 573-874-9390. Are you in that situation, I think like many of us are, where you're sitting on an existing mortgage with a good rate, and that's your sole reason for not currently shopping in the market? Are you a developer who has looked at trying to build something new and said, I cannot deal with all of these regulations. It just makes it too expensive.
Yeah. Are people getting big remodels done because they don't want to buy a new house with a much higher mortgage rate because you get less a house if you move?
And it seems like, the biggest loser here are certainly the first-time home buyers who aren't sitting on some equity already in an easier market with a lower rate. And we're seeing that with the younger generation saying we're living in mom's basement because we can't afford to get into a house right now. Drake's like, yep, been there, done that. All right, coming up next, we'll have some advice for the youth from your Supreme Court justices. We will also talk about Lindsey Graham reflections.
affected me and my family personally. They have required me to, my children, to think about and see things that children should not have to see or think about. One example is when threats to my life were particularly intense a few years ago, around the time of the Dobbs leak. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, turned around, and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it, and I didn't know how to respond because
Justice Barrett yesterday before Congress talking about the threats to Supreme Court justices and the need for additional protection and funding, kind of a landmark testimony that hasn't occurred for some time. If you missed it earlier, we had Zach Smith walk us through that. Zach Smith of Heritage at 7:35. We've had a packed show. If you missed our interview with Congressman Onder, who has some pretty significant pieces of legislation hitting committee today, and just now talking with FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bailey. You can check that out on the website or the podcast later. Now, Jen, it's rare that we see a headline like the one you just shared with me about a former liberal community becoming more moderate.
I did a double take when I saw this one, Stephanie, and it has been a packed show. I encourage people to check out that podcast, especially the interview with Bailey. I'm still thinking about that one.
I think
There's
that
so
guy,
much covered.
Does he just wake up and take an IV of Red Bull?
But just, I mean, the important things that he's working on. This is a guy we know. We've been friends with for how long? And oh my goodness, the stuff that they are working on at the FBI to keep us safe. It's just, my head is spinning thinking about all this stuff.
You hear about all the threats that impact us and our friends and our family day to day, but how many threats never even make it to us because of the important work they're doing? Sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Huge, and just the factories of fraudsters in other countries that he is going to and to try to shut down, and these evil people that are using the dark web and then the real web to get these kids isolated and to do violent things. It's just a lot of dark stuff. But here's the better news out of, believe it or not, San Francisco. The mayor's political machine indicates the city's shift to the center. Neighbors for a Better San Francisco spent $10 million to defeat labor-backed corporate tax hike and to keep progressives off of their city council. Board of Supervisors is what they call it, I believe. So they have a bunch of centrist Democrats now in power in San Francisco, California, in the United States of America. And they're embracing these more centrist policies. So even though a lot of the craziest stuff that we see in our country seems to come out of California, it looks like maybe some sanity is finally coming back around and adults are getting back in charge in, of all places, San Francisco. They soundly defeated two super progressive candidates. So that puts them way ahead of New York City, where they just ousted these congressmen with a bunch of wackos that are going to be, part of the socialist platform and want to be communists and want to, eliminate the Senate and get rid of the presidency. That's their platform. So as crazy as those people are, it heartens me to see that there are some adults in San Francisco that see how nuts this stuff is and are shutting down the progressives.
It's going to
Hopefully this is a trend that continues.
I agree, but I think having these crazy DSA people out, and I thought maybe, Fetterman's been pushing back, some other people have been pushing back. Certainly there are hopefully some reasonable Democrats who have to realize that having these DSA people all over the socials and all over the headlines isn't helpful as they head into the midterms. But it seems like since this weekend, it's only ramped up. They've had some successes in these races. They've won some races, which I think has emboldened them. But if you look at the platform, abolish the Senate, abolish the presidency. What kind of government are we having here?
Well, they want to try a good old. Ultimately, they would like a dictatorship, probably. They would like all the power and all the money and communism. At the end of the day, that's where they're heading. Because they have to be stopped. And I'm just glad that there are still some sane people on the left in San Francisco, for goodness sakes, that are stopping them.
Where are the folks in Boone County? And in parts of the liberal bastion of Springfield, we need some of those folks to step up.
At least we got rid of. Hopefully, it still shakes out. But we got rid of what's her face, Cori Bush over in St. Louis. So that is a race. We'll have to see how that one shakes out at the beginning of next month because she's running again for Wesley Bell's seat. He ousted her.
Yeah.
And she was an embarrassment on a national basis every day. They were like, Missouri Congresswoman, this and that says get rid of all the cops. Yeah. Missouri Congresswoman. I'm
what
just
did
like,
she
oh
say
my
now?
God.
Yeah.
It was so bad. What did John? Oh, there's so many face palms. It'd be like every time they were saying something Cori Bush said, I was smacking my head like, we've got to get rid of her. She's embarrassing for our brand as a state.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we disagree with Wesley Bell on some policies, but you rarely see him in the headlines.
Yeah, humiliating our state. We haven't seen that out of him at all. So.
Well, you talked about San Francisco, too, and the move from the super progressives over to more, what they'd call a centrist in San Francisco would be a hardcore right-winger anywhere else. But, yeah, it's one of those kind of deals. I know their recent elections where they voted in some stuff tough on crime to give, cops more power to go after the takeover crowds that like to come in and mass shoplift and all that. And you wonder how much their challenges with their unhoused population has played into that mindset of San Francisco voters.
One does wonder because they have the nice weather out there in LA and San Francisco. And I think that they've tried all this progressive stuff. It's failed their cities. It's turned them into like third world looking places with the tent cities and stuff popping up all over the place. And so it looks like there are people that are still there that care enough to invest in trying to save their cities. We'll have to see how far New York City has to fall under this Mamdani idiot that they elected before they wake up too.
And the same goes for LA. I mean, I think a lot of us thought that they had fallen so far. I mean, and Spencer Pratt had a great message. Look, they're letting your house burn down. They're not prepared. They
didn't have water in their reservoir.
Yeah, we have fires. That's a known thing, and they let all of our water go. They let your house burn down. You're going to get stabbed by random people on the street. The drugs are out of control. They don't have a plan. These are the people who've been in charge, and it just shocks me.
And we saw it in Portland last month.
Oh
in
my
June.
gosh.
People doing hard drugs on the street. People acting crazy on the street. And you go in, and as you travel in, there's mansions on the water and stuff. This is a wealthy, successful place that is just being destroyed by these progressive, liberal policies. They want to do it out of kindness. It's not kind. It's not compassion. You have people dying on your streets right in front of your face.
And, you hear about it in the news. You sometimes see it on social media. I have never seen like zombie people
bent over. And some of it, like the one young gal, I can't stop thinking about her. She's got some like 50-year-old guy who didn't look high looming over her. God knows what that relationship is as he's helping her get hooked up with drugs.
And I remember there was like a guy when we were walking, there was like a guy walking down the street, a city street, who did not look like he was headed to any sort of landscaping work, carrying like a hoe or like a giant tool.
Swinging it around.
And I was like, we got to get, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
So what's happening in these cities?
Thank God we got out of there. I'm like, we just want to go to CVS a few blocks away from like the Nordstrom's, the nice like couple block area. And that was a walk on the wild side.
Oh, yeah, hit downtown Columbia at the wrong time of day or night.
It's not like Portland,
man.
Yeah,
it's not on that scale.
Yeah,
but
not on that scale. But don't go into Flat Branch Park. But don't walk around in there. You might see some old people up to some hijinks over there.
Do you want to elaborate, Jen?
Apparently, two, silver-haired members of a society were committing a sex act in public in that park and got arrested the other day. So I'm glad that they're still enjoying healthy sex lives, I guess, but just keep it inside, guys. Don't do that in a public park.
Happens to the best of us.
I don't know. A lot of people.
Not every day you see like a 72-year-old guy to 67 get arrested for committing an act on a 67-year-old woman.
Yeah, people don't report it. I mean, let people live, man. I mean, I thought this was America. I thought we beat the Nazis. I thought we won the Cold War.
Yeah, we should be able to have sex right on the street, huh?
Yeah.
No, in a park.
I think there's a daycare right there. There's a lot of people with their offices there.
It's not really a park it's not like woods.
It's an inner city park with a lot of
happens every day in the dog park. So what's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Those are with dogs.
That sounds
Unless there's something else happening. Do you have something you got to tell us, John?
That sounds like a good way to
racy dog parks.
I was going to say that sounds like a good way to catch the explosive diarrhea that's going around. So stay safe, follow the law, And yeah,
We are
don't
keeping
embarrass.
it classy this segment here on Wake Up Missouri.
Don't embarrass us, please. As we
I hope my mom isn't listening to this segment of the show.
Well, let's check in on the text line. Sandy says, thanks, Jen and Steph, for filling in. Tim says, hey, Drake, one of the best places to birdwatch is in Columbia is Shelter Gardens. The trees and flowers and other plants are a magnet for a variety of birds. It's relaxing, too. See, they're looking out for all your weird hobbies.
This has been misconstrued so much because it's not like I birdwatch. I like taking care of birds, as in farm animals and all of that, and I love my parrots. That's where this whole bird thing came from.
You're a bird connoisseur. You have like a bird
Aren't you
shirt
looking into buying an emu?
Yeah, emus are native to Australia.
And they're mean.
They're not that mean.
Pretty big.
Yeah, they're big.
I hear they're
not
tasty.
mean.
If you get the alpha gal and you can't eat mammal meat, an emu meat is the closest you can get to red meat that you can eat.
Emu is a red meat.
Mm-hmm. But you can eat it if you have alpha gal.
I feel like I've eaten some weird things, but I've never tried emu or even seen it on a menu. Where do you get it?
It's expensive. You have to order it online.
Gross.
But if you really love red meat, you can't eat it anymore because you got alpha gal because you got bitten by a tick.
Wouldn't you just eat duck?
I guess duck is not as
turkey
close to hamburger
and
or
and
whatever
all
as
that. Gets old after a
the
while.
one that tastes the closest to cow is emu.
All right. Yeah, I did see that online. They said, hey, if you're worried about lettuce, feed it to your cow and then eat the cow, and you won't have to catch the cyclospora or whatever the heck's going around. All right. We do need to get to leftovers next before we pass the baton off today. And we've got a big show actually coming up for you tomorrow as well. We're going to talk to Aaron Headland of the White House Council of Economic Advisors about eliminating Missouri's income tax. And we're also going to talk to folks from Boone County Fire about Missouri Task Force 1's response to the recent flooding. You're going to want to stick with us today for leftovers, but also join us tomorrow for those guests, and we'll be right back.
It's Wake Up
Good leftover this morning. Andy Reid, the Chiefs head coach, voted the NFL's number one coach by the Associated Press for the fourth year in a row. How about that?
Hey, Drake's already looking mad.
No, I didn't hear what he said. I just heard coach, and I'm wondering who it was.
Andy Reid, number one coach by the Associated Press for the fourth year in a row.
Awesome. I think Andy Reid is a great coach.
He is a great coach.
Jen also has a leftover.
Freddie is back, the German who went viral for just loving America as he toured for the World Cup. He took a 2-week break because there was a lot of trolls and haters online, but he's back and he had some fun last night in Tennessee with some firearms. We've got a little clip of how that
I can start it from the beginning, right?
Ready? Yep. Are you? Yep. Go left. Yeah, come.
There they are with Tannerite, and he tweeted that for the picture, freedom! He says the fact that you could have firearms like this in your house in America is just is so crazy to me with a crying face emoji, but I think he's converting to being a gun lover in the free country of America in Tennessee. So it's good to see Freddie is back. Lots of positive people saying, oh, my grandparents are always asking me, what are the Germans up to today? So he did a big explanation on why he is back, and we welcome him back.
And it's so fascinating to me, like, what these folks are taking home with them. We've talked, of course, about the ranch dressing and some of the popular products.
Did you see what Holland brought back?
That's
the
exactly
raccoon?
The taxidermied whiskey raccoon. And he's
Those are sold out now.
He's carrying it under one arm. And I'm like, can you imagine going to a foreign country on, like, vacay or doing whatever you're doing and then coming back? I didn't think you could get through even with the taxidermied animal.
I was wondering, do you have anything to declare? Yeah, here's my stuffed raccoon with a whiskey bottle.
I know, like, live animals are on, like, the no list, and certain, like, live, certain meats, and I think, like, plants, you have to be really careful with when you're coming back.
Well, you can't take a lot of that stuff into California.
Yeah, that's that's fair. But they've caught people. I know, like, we were coming back. They had, like, made a banana leaf hat. We were coming back from somewhere, and I was like, well, that's fun. And somebody in my family had it on, and they were like, nope. They were worried about, like, mites in the leaves or something, and so you couldn't bring it on the plane or through customs with you. And I in college, I really wanted to bring back some chorizo, and they definitely took that from me out of my suitcase on the way home.
Well, the superstar from Norway, Erling Haaland, didn't just have a raccoon. He also had a custom black cowboy hat embroidered EH9. He was talking with a southern accent, and he wore a "Y'all Can Kiss My Dallas" t-shirt. And he couldn't stop talking about how kind Texans are.
I saw a TikTok. I sent it to my sister, and it was a guy who, not a player, but a guy who had come over, and he goes, and here's my white Bass Pro hat, and my black Bass Pro hat, and my green Bass Pro hat, and my orange Bass Pro hat. I'm wondering how much money Bass Pro made off of these foreigners.
I think those hats are cute. Yeah, that's awesome.
They're really cute, but yeah, it's amazing to see, like, what they wanted to buy while they were over here. I'm typically not a big, like, tchotchke souvenir girl when I'm traveling. Although I like to. Do you like the word tchotchke, Drake?
No, I'm just looking up some Holland clips. And have you seen the one of him, like, eating at the restaurant? Like, there's the mirror right next to him, and he, like, looks over and scares himself.
Yes.
I love him.
He's a weird dude. There's also a gal who looks like him who people suspected was a sister, but maybe he's not like a sister, and she, like, impersonates him and is making fun of him, the way he walks and the scaring himself in the mirror. But they have provided significant entertainment. It's been such a fun summer. And
it's all over Sunday. Well, we have a semifinal today.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sunday
who are
is
you
final.
rooting for? Do you have a team, Jen?
I guess England.
I really like England. Harry Kane, I think he's so good. I fell in love with him like 3 games ago. I thought he just did so well. So I will be watching. When is the game? The final game?
Today.
This afternoon.
Today's not the final game, though.
No, final game is Sunday at like 2 o'clock.
Oh.
Then the final is at 2 p.m. on Sunday?
Something like that.
Yep.
Alrighty. Sounds
After
like
the
a
Jennifer
plan.
Bukowski show that everyone should tune in for.
Mark your calendars. We'll be cheering, even though the USA is out. Okay, tomorrow we do have a big show. We're talking to Task Force 1 about the flood response. We're also talking to Aaron Hedlund about eliminating Missouri's income tax. So you're going to want to tune in tomorrow. Send us your hard questions. You can always do that See you then.